Cinemajaw is sponsored by Overcast, an independent podcast app that embraces the open world of podcasting instead of locking it down. No exclusives, no premium content, no paywalls. Just a great podcast app for everyone. Get it for free in the App Store. And we thank them for their support. You're listening to Cinemajaw, the greatest movies podcast ever, recorded on location from our respective homes in Chicago. My name is Matt Kay, and with me is
Rye the movie guy, and sitting inside the fish tank is Fill Me In Phil.
Hello.
This week on Cinemajaw, Matt, we get dark with a little bit of laughter as we cover our top 5 favorite comedians in dark movie roles.
Yeah. You know, I think this is really a fun topic because there's something disarming about a comedian in a horror or dark role. You expect them to be funny and make you feel one way, and then they kind of flip the script and make you feel a completely different way. It can be more effective when done right.
I agree. And comedians, I think they have a way, we have a bonding with them as the audience. We feel comfortable, like we know these guys because they make us laugh. So to see anything different from a comedian in a movie role is jarring sometimes, and especially when they turn to horror or dark roles.
As somebody who I ran a weekly comedy showcase at one of the bars I worked at. And for 5 years, I got to know stand-up comedy in Chicago fairly well. There's a dark undercurrent with comedians often, not always, but often. You will find that. So sometimes they're very well suited for roles like this.
Agreed. To help us with a topic like this, we got to have a great guest, don't we?
Yes. Emmanuel, Noisette, fellow critic, YouTuber, friend of ours from Chicago, will be joining us shortly.
I think it's should be noted, Matt, that Emmanuel was the last guest we had in studio.
I know.
Then the pandemic hit.
I know. Yeah. Well, we'll talk to him about that because that was an interesting night.
It was. All hell was breaking loose.
It was
luckily, E-Man was in the studio to keep us calm.
I know.
Besides that, we have more going on, don't we, Phil?
Yeah, we're keeping it rolling with Angelina Jolie month. And we also, it's not going to be a full version like we normally do, but we have a condensed summer movie preview that we're going to be going over in the second half of the show.
Nice. And we have a review of Spiral from the Book of Saw.
There's the tie-in, Chris Rock in Spiral.
Yep.
And also because Chris Rock is in Spiral, I thought this is a good time, Matt, for you to take E-Man on in rock movie trivia.
Okay. All right. Like
rock
and roll? Like,
yeah, just think rock movie trivia.
Okay.
That's all I'm giving you.
All right.
It's a pretty jam-packed jaw, is it not?
As always, Rye.
So let's start with an Angelina Jolie fact.
Yes, in the 2001 Tomb Raider film that starred Angelina Jolie, that was the first time in more than 3 decades that a Hollywood film production had been shot in Cambodia. Reportedly, Angelina really loved it there in Cambodia, so much so that she helped clean up a minefield. She eventually moved there, and it is also where she met and adopted her first son, Maddox, all in Cambodia.
That's great.
It was a setting for a masterpiece, Tomb Raider 2001.
Something like that.
One of the best.
I'm sure someone does think that.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say this. I held off from seeing that movie for a very long time. And when I finally saw it, I thought, not all that bad. So I think that's a good thing.
It's okay.
Plus, John Voight plays her father in the movie, and it's her father in real life.
Talk about method acting, right?
Unbelievable. Good stuff.
That was probably really awkward at casting. Like, what are you auditioning for, Dad?
Imagine if he didn't get the role. We just don't believe it.
Love it. Good stuff. All right, let's get this podcast rolling. Without further ado, we bring in our guest, Emmanuel Noisette, fellow critic here in Chicago. He hosts the YouTube channel, very popular YouTube channel, E-Man's Movie Reviews. So popular that I saw E-Man yesterday at the Spiral screening, Matt, and he walked in with a hoodie with his face on the hoodie. E-Man Movie Reviews. Emmanuel Noisette, welcome back to Cinemajaw.
Thank you so much for having me back. I really appreciate it.
Do you like wearing that hoodie with your face on the hoodie advertising the E-Man's movie reviews?
Let me tell you something. If I don't rep myself, who will?
Amen, man. Yes, of course. I wear the Cinemajaw shirt. It's got our faces on it. Loud and proud.
Yeah,
It's good
as
stuff.
you should.
So how's everything going on over at E-Man's movie reviews?
Hey, can't complain. You know, we are trucking along slowly but surely. I mean, the whole pandemic has been, almost a blessing and a curse in the same time. Now that, you have people quarantined and stuff, I would argue that access is starting to open up now. Talent, for celebrities and stuff, they're more willing to do interviews because, hey, you're in your living room or whatever. So that's really nice. It's so much nicer not having to always go downtown and pay for parking and, rush up to the theater versus, hey, just send me a link and I can screen from here. And, so that was some definite perks, I guess. But it looks like we're getting back to normal. And I know for my channel, I'm definitely happy that we're starting to expand a little bit with the advent of streaming and everything. So we're doing more breakdowns, WandaVision, all the Marvel stuff is definitely picking up, and Star Wars. So it's an exciting time. I mean, we're approaching 100K subscribers.
Wow.
We're at 95 right now, 95,000. So I'm just excited for all the growth and potential coming up.
Congratulations, man. Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And you mentioned it, and one sort of segment that you were doing every week was a breakdown of WandaVision. And I know, Matt, you've watched WandaVision.
I did.
Yeah, Matt was a huge fan.
Oh, yeah.
What did you think, Emmanuel? Was this, we actually got into a cinema war arguing that did it cross over, or was it made for just Marvel fans? Where do you sit on that, and how do you look at WandaVision as a whole?
You know what? I think it has open fan appeal, right? I mean, one of the bigger criticisms when the show first started was that it wasn't Marvel enough, right? Because it was doing all the sitcom stuff, doing all the little, paying homage to like all these different TV comedy sitcoms and all. But then, of course, once you get a little deeper into the show, it turns up and all of a sudden we're getting into androids and magic and all this sci-fi stuff, that you love in Marvel. So I think it was designed to appeal to both sides. I mean, if you really look at Marvel's strategy, that's kind of their goal. They always want to grab people that have never picked up a comic book before. So WandaVision was no exception to that. I do think that anyone could walk off the street and watch it. They obviously will have some questions, and that's also part of the strategy, right? Like, you got questions, go sign up for Disney Plus and watch all of our stuff. So I think, it's successful in that regard.
I loved it. And it to me, when I was watching it, and I'm not just saying this, I really went every time an episode would finish, because I knew you were doing the reviews, and I was actually like a couple weeks behind you. I would go right afterwards and watch your episode breakdown of that episode, like right after I finished it.
Nice.
Great companion piece.
Thank you. I tried. I mean, I wanted it to, because you remember The Walking Dead and how they had the Talking Dead right after. I love that, and I was just like, my goodness, how could I do something like that after a show? And I was just like, you know what? I just got to do it myself. So yeah, that was the goal. So I love the fact that you enjoyed that. Thank you.
What are your favorite kind of videos? Because you're doing celebrity interviews, you do reaction videos, you're doing reviews, you're doing breakdowns. What kind of video do you look forward to making the most?
That depends on what you mean by look forward to. So if I'm doing a celebrity interview, that's where all that nerve excitement comes in,
Sure.
Where you're nervous and you're excited, and you might pee on yourself a little bit just because you don't want to screw up. Those are always fun to prep for. But I think the most engaging one that I really, really like is the live ones, the live reactions. So, if a show comes out on a Friday, that Friday night, I'll just set up a live and we, me and my audience, we just react to all the things that happen. It's such an organic process. I mean, I barely even go in with a script anymore at this point. I just go in with a couple talking points to make sure we don't go completely off the rails. But yeah, I mean, being able to connect with people and talk with them and, have dialogue and stuff. I mean, you can't ask for a better video experience than that.
Absolutely.
I was going to ask, I noticed 2 days ago at the Spiral screening, you had your notebook and you're taking notes. Do you do the same when you're watching something like WandaVision at home?
So my the way I do that is not like that. Movies, sure. I'll bust out a notepad, or if I'm at home, I'll, be taking notes on my phone or whatever. But for the breakdowns, actually, my process is I watch it first because I want the natural reactions. And then I wait maybe a couple hours. So, it kind of gets out of my head. And then I go back and watch it again. This time I'll turn on the captions. Disney has this feature where you can do audio description, where it describes what's going on for the visually impaired. I go back and watch it again with that turned on, just in case if there were certain things I missed. And after that, I'm taking notes, and that process can take like almost 8 to 9 hours if I'm being like for real honest, because people think like, oh man, you're just so witty and you're so funny. I'm like, that takes time. I'm not a comedian. I'm not that smart. It takes a lot of prep time, to sit there, think things through, have articulate, insight and stuff. So yeah, it takes some work. It takes some work.
You taking notes, Rye?
Oh, yeah, right now. Well, for the jawheads that want to check out your WandaVision and all your videos, where should we send them online?
Yeah, for sure. E-Man's movie reviews, just like He-Man without the H. You can't miss it. You'll definitely want to sign up on the Facebook fan page, Twitter, Instagram, and of course the YouTube channel where all the fun content is. I am going to be doing hopefully more live videos, and I can guarantee you will have a good time because that's what everybody says they have. So I have to take the people's word for it.
Nice. Got to jump into one of those live streams sometime.
Yeah, please do.
I will.
For sure. As you heard, E-Man, we are celebrating Angelina Jolie month, and we asked this question called Keep, Destroy, Spielberg Remake. And it's just that. You got to keep one movie, destroy one movie, and one movie Steven Spielberg has to make a remake of. And that's all we're left with. The 3 movies I'm throwing at you are these: Wanted, Salt, and Gone in 60 Seconds. What do you do with these 3? Keep, destroy, Spielberg remake.
And Spielberg has to be the one to redo it?
Yes.
Of course.
I want to keep Wanted. Just because that's a personal favorite of mine. I want to keep Wanted. I don't know, because I don't know if I trust Spielberg with the action stuff as much. I'll throw away Salt. Oof. Only because I feel like I'm still getting enough of her and the similar character in Wanted, and I'll have him redo Gone in 60 Seconds.
It could use a redo. Yeah,
and we need Nick Cage to be directed by Steven Spielberg, right?
Hell yeah.
I mean, he needs some direction for sure.
Matt, you agree with that choice there?
Yeah, I think that's a spot on choice. How about you, Ray?
Yeah, I'm right there as well. I like both Wanted and Salt, but I think if you held a gun to my head and you were about to bend a bullet, I would probably pick Wanted on that one. Salt would have been a great series. I wish it would have went more. It needed more depth into that character. I wanted to see where it went, but I'd go with the same. Keep Wanted, get rid of Salt, and see what Spielberg does with Gone in 60 Seconds.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right, Matt. Me and Emmanuel got out to the theater and saw Spiral. You clicked a link.
I did. That's, who knows how much longer we can do that. So I'm happy to be able to take advantage of that. Spiral. Once again, Hollywood is back to plumb the depths of the Saw franchise with its ninth installment. Let's be honest. The only reason we're even talking about this is the star highly respected actor Chris Rock and his supporting star Sam Jackson. Can this horror reboot cut its way into our hearts and minds, or is the saw blade just too dull? Ryan and I played a game to find out.
Hello, Detective Banks. Do you know where your officers are?
Jigsaw?
Wait, I thought the Jigsaw Killer was dead.
He is.
Find him. They're hours, not days.
How can I catch this guy? If there's nobody on the force, I can trust!
You can't do this alone.
Whoever did this has another motive. Something personal.
When was the last time you saw your father?
Spiral from the Book of Saw opens with a series signature, a grisly murder by death trap. It's brutal, bloody, and disgusting, and it's all pretty much downhill from there. We're introduced to Detective Zeke Banks, played by Chris Rock, after his cover is blown during a drug bust. Zeke's at odds with the rest of his department after having took a stand against corruption within. His captain, played stereotypically by Marisol Nichols, gives him a new partner played by Max Mangella, and the dynamic is tropey and very well worn. Soon, the department discovers there's a jigsaw killer copycat stalking and murdering police officers. It's up to Zeke, his new partner, the captain, and the former chief, Marcus Banks, Zeke's dad, played by Sam Jackson, to find the killer and put a stop to the bloody rampage. This movie fails as a mystery. The red herring is so blatantly obvious that any armchair detective worth their salt will see that ruse a mile away. The clues and scenes never satisfyingly hint at any suspects in a whodunit manner. The movie fails as a horror. While there is a fair amount of gore and the torture that this series is known for, I never developed any sort of bond with any of the characters to care much beyond the squeamishness inherent in the death traps. Nothing made me jump. Nothing really made me feel creeping dread. The movie fails as a police procedural. The investigation is a joke. We never see Banks search for DNA, find real clues, round up suspects. And the few leads we do see the cops pursue are simply plot devices to create the next victim. The one early lead suspect is promptly dropped from the plot about halfway through the film, and we never even learn his true fate, despite being mentioned several times and being the character that sets events in motion. This movie fails as an entry in the Saw franchise, having only the loosest ties. It really just comes down to the MO of the killer, and that's about it. The famous motivations are out the window. And lastly, this movie fails as an homage to Fincher's Seven, the classic cops hunting a horror-level serial killer who's always one step ahead noir. It just doesn't even come close. The only saving grace of the movie Spiral is Chris Rock and Sam Jackson. Both are fantastic, as they always are. Neither role is a stretch for either actor, having both played hardened cops in past films. Nevertheless, these are two of the best living actors working today, and they've knocked this movie up way more notches than it deserves. Without Rock and Jackson, this would be bargain basement direct-to-DVD crap that wouldn't even register. But since they're in it, it does. I wouldn't say they rescue this movie, but I enjoyed my time with those two enough that I did wind up having a little bit of fun with this, Ryan. I can't say I recommend the movie much, but you could certainly do worse in the genre.
Wow. Well, two takeaways. One, I can't believe the praise you're heaping onto Chris Rock's acting abilities.
Come on, are you kidding?
One of the best living actors. What are you talking about here? But
he's a big name, man.
No, he's a big name, but he's not one of the best living actors. I love Chris Rock, but I would never say that about him. I'll say this. You're right on. After the first 10 minutes of this movie, I was pumped. I thought, oh my God, this has got a chance to succeed. You could see what they were going for, but they just don't achieve it. I get that the Saw movies need to move at a high speed, so you don't try to think rationally about what's going on. But I think the filmmakers needed to let Spiral breathe a bit more. Once they get to the second jigsaw contraption, if you will, it starts to turn more and more into a Saw movie and get further away from trying to be like Seven. I don't think they ever said this, but I think this would have been a better movie without Sam Jackson, believe it or not, because I think his presence was distracting.
I don't even think you can make a sentence with those words, dude.
I know, but I think his presence was distracting. I think it would have played out better with a lesser known actor in that particular role. What are your thoughts on that, E-Man?
I mean, I think if you had had a lesser known actor, it would have tempered my expectations down. So I can understand that from that aspect, because, you know, when you put Chris Rock and Sam Jackson into a movie, you're expecting, you know, some high quality stuff. You're expecting for them to sign on to a project that is not going to be as basic and formulaic as this ended up becoming. And that's probably one of my biggest disappointments, because as a fan of the Saw franchise, and this was already going in a downward spiral. I mean, we're in the 9th installment and they still want to make a 10. You know, they still want to make another one after this. But I was like, at this point, what else can you show us? We're 9 movies in. What else can you show us? And they said the same stuff. We already did. I mean, the first, 6 movies or 5 were all about Jigsaw and, you know, maybe his apprentices and stuff like that. Cool. I'm fine with that. Then now we get to this and it's like, oh, wait, another copycat. I mean, doesn't it get tiring at some point to just keep doing the same thing? You couldn't turn it up a notch or something? Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm not at the mindset to give a whole bunch of different spins for them, but I'm like, if you can't come up with something more original to take it up a notch, then don't do the movie. Because honestly, I'm not going in there for, I don't know, the sick payoff of watching more torture porn. I'm just not. I mean, don't get me wrong. I get that it is an appeal. I get that that's the gimmick, you know, with this film, or with this franchise rather. But at the same time, I'm like, you know, for a lot of those things, I couldn't even watch them. I was just like, okay, I don't really want to see all those blood and guts. It's not really my thing. You know, I'm actually more interested in, you know, the creativity, the motivations. I'm more interested in, like, okay, what, you know, is this character desperate enough? You know, what's their next move in maybe trying to outwit the serial killer or something? But we got none of that.
That's what I was hoping for.
I mean,
that's what I was hoping
we got none of that. I'm sitting here thinking like, oh man, maybe Chris Rock is gonna, you know, look at all the patterns and be like, okay, now we know how to outthink the copycat or something. But we didn't get that. So
no,
that, again, this movie does not do what I think they were hoping for. Going into it, I was very nervous, mainly because of what Chris Rock said, because he's a producer on this too.
Right. I was going to ask.
Yeah. He was saying something like, oh, you know what the Saw movies are missing? Comedy. They're not funny enough. And I was like, wait a minute.
Jesus.
What?
Like, well, there wasn't. I mean, he does a Forrest Gump joke at the top, like when we first meet his character, and it was pretty funny. And then that's it. He's not funny again for the rest of the movie.
Well, here's the thing.
I loved his character in that first opening scene. I thought, oh, that's what drew me in. I thought, oh, if it's going to be a little bit like this, it's going to work. But it didn't. It got away from that.
There were so many moments like that Forrest Gump joke. And then I think like when he was in the car ranting about women and divorce and stuff like, I'm like, dude, you're doing your stand-up. You're just doing your stand-up routine in between takes. And I'm really looking at this like, okay, if you slice those moments out of the movie, literally adds or takes nothing away. Like it's just extra baggage. And I was just like, why is this here at that point?
It's comedians in cars getting coffee is what it is. I mean, that's what it is.
Blood, sure. Yeah.
With a little bit of blood.
The other thing is, after doing now 9 Saw films, and you got multiple contraptions that they put these characters in throughout each of these movies, they're running stale on what kind of contraptions. They're becoming ridiculous. It's like, if you don't do this and you don't scream out loud, Bob Saget's going to kick you in the nads for the next 24 hours. It's gotten ludicrous.
That's awesome. They need to hire you as a writer.
It's just goofiness. I mean, there's literally bottles being broken and shattered and glass flying at people. That one was dumb.
Yeah.
None of them were good. Like none really grabbed me. Maybe the first one was the best.
The first one was definitely eye-catching, right? Because I'm sitting here thinking, like, I mean, look, whenever I watch a Saw movie, I always think to myself, I put myself in the character or in the victim's shoes. Like, okay, would I be willing to do this? Do I really need these fingers? Like, can I live without a tongue or whatever, But again, I just think that this was something that worked back in the early 2000s, back when Hostel was a thing, like when the torture thing was so new and so shocking. But I mean, my goodness, it's been 20 years. Like, yep. I don't think we need this anymore. I think you could throw the torture porn stuff away for now and revisit it in like another 20 years when there's another generation that just hasn't been experienced to it. Because honestly, it goes over my head. Like, I just don't care at this point.
Yep. It's so funny because when this movie hit our radars, Ryan was like, okay, this is what we're going to review this week. And I was like, man, I don't want to watch a Saw movie, another torture porn. He's like, no, check it out. Chris Rock is in it. It looks like they're taking the series in a new direction. And I was so excited. And even as a torture porn kind of movie, right? Even fans of that genre, I think, will be disappointed. It doesn't really at any point it didn't make me feel squeamish. Is it gory? Yeah, but I didn't care. It didn't affect me.
Yeah.
It didn't like a movie like Hostel. Holy crap. I mean, some of those scenes are difficult to watch.
Yeah.
Sure.
This wasn't difficult to watch. As gruesome as it was, I'm just like, eh.
Did you guys care about the twist at the end? The big reveal? Okay.
Oh, dude.
No.
Yeah. All right.
Terrible.
I thought so too. It did nothing, and then the abrupt ending. I'm like, that's
the
it?
abrupt ending was like, did they just run out of money and they decided like, well, just end the movie? That's like how it felt.
That's how. Yeah, I agree.
And this is with a runtime of about 87 minutes, mind you. The thing you touched on too, Matt, and I wanted to bring this up when you'd said it, was that they don't do any actual detective work like DNA. And when you get stars like Chris Rock and Samuel L. Jackson, all of our expectations get risen. And so we're thinking that they're going to take it more serious. So when that box comes to Chris Rock, a box comes from the supposed killer to the police station with his name on it, right away he just opens it up and starts playing the video. And it's like, all right, who sent the box? Who delivered it? Check the box for prints. None of that.
Where was the paper made?
Right, right away, it's into the Saw mentality of let's watch the video, and we're right into the hands of the Jigsaw killer. Come on.
Yeah. Terrible.
One other note, I thought the Jigsaw voice sounded like Adam Driver.
I did not put that together.
I'm going to have to re-listen.
I thought it was Adam Driver, but that's all I got. Matt, you got a jaw-dropping moment here in this one?
The opening sequence. I mean, what the first death trap, I should say. It's not exactly the opening sequence, but that is pretty gruesome. And that got me. And if the movie had continued in that same direction and tone, I would have been along for the ride, but it didn't.
E-Man, jaw-dropping moment. Anything stand out?
That was it. I wanted the pig face to do it because in all the other Saw movies, the pig face always scared the crap out of me. This was the one time I was like, like it just failed.
Yeah.
It just failed every time. So yeah, I got to go with Matt. Like the first opening scene that was it.
For me, I would say the fingers being pulled away. I'll just say that much. Somewhat got me, but not much. Go ahead, Matt.
Really quickly. Also, apparently the Jigsaw killer can subdue anyone with a pillowcase or what was it like?
Yeah.
Some saran wrap over the face. That's all it takes.
Maybe it was chloroform. I don't know.
Trained police. Maybe it was chloroform. All right.
And how did he put that contraption together in the subway? I mean, the whole thing's ridiculous. You got a movie poster quote, Matt?
A fun failure. I mean, I still really enjoyed hanging out with Chris Rock for a little while. That was fun.
I went with two. I didn't know which one to pick. My first one was the filet mignon of Saw movies.
That's really saying something too.
Well, I'm not a big fan of the Saw movies, so I was going to say only decent.
The first few are pretty good.
And then the second one was, because I could see this on the poster, find out why there was no Forrest Gump sequel. That's a selling point.
Sure.
All right, going around the room, 4-jaw scale. How many jaws, Matt?
I'm giving it 1.5.
E-Man?
I give it 2.
I give it 2 as well. 2 jaws.
Yeah, I could be convinced to give it the second half jaw.
But I think Jawheads, you can hear overall, all three of us disappointed from our expectations going into Spiral. If you have seen it and you want to comment, maybe you think we got it wrong, shoot us a tweet at Cinemajaw or shoot us an email, feedback@cinemajaw.com. It was Chris Rock's role in Spiral that got us thinking comedians in dark movie roles. E-Man, was this a tough list for you to come up with or difficult to narrow down to 5?
A little bit. I mean, more so because I know that there, if we're talking about our favorites, I mean, comedians have done dark roles before, but if we're talking about our favorites, I think we're going to have a lot of overlap. So that was the only concern I had. But I think I got a couple backups here just to, keep it fresh.
Nice. Well, you're getting us started. What do you got sitting at number 5?
Oh, so glad I can go first. Oh, I'm going to go with definitely one of my favorites. And that was Jim Carrey in the number 23. I absolutely love this for him. I mean, of course, he was already doing more serious roles at this point, but when he took on this role, and I honestly, I mean, I haven't seen this movie in a while, so I'm going off of memory. So I can't speak to the the recyclability, of the film today. But when I did watch it with my untrained critic eye, I thought it was well crafted. It kept me guessing. This was all about a guy who was just obsessing over the number 23 and whether it had a deeper meaning. And I guess actually maybe it could, fit in today's world now with all the conspiracy theories floating around. So maybe it does have some rewatchability, but I thought Carrey was amazing in it. I mean, to go dark, I mean, the man went dark. So yeah, I thought that fit the bill.
Matt, you a fan of this one? I have actually never seen this movie.
Really?
I'm a fan of this. I get a lot of crap, actually. I find myself defending this movie. I've brought it up on lists and people have batted it down. But I like it. This probably marks the beginning of the unraveling of his career. I don't think he had many more hits. Like his box office star sunk after this movie because it did fail.
It didn't do well.
Box office.
Yeah, that's true. It didn't do well. I mean, I rented it, when it came out. So
yeah, I went and saw it in the theater and I had fun with it. I liked it.
Phil, can you see if it's streaming on one of the big services for me? Throw it in the fish tank. I do want to check that one out.
It's an interesting one.
It's worth it.
It's interesting.
All right, that swings it around to me. And at number 5, I have a bit of a twofer, but I'm really leaning toward one of them specifically because the other is arguably not a comedian. Dan Aykroyd and John Cusack in Grosse Point Blank. Let's stick with Aykroyd, all right? Because Cusack he had comedic roles, but he wasn't a comedian. Aykroyd's a comedian. He came from television's SNL, other shows. In Grosse Point Blank, he plays an assassin trying to start an assassin guild, I guess, an assassin union. And he keeps popping up to try to get John Cusack's character to join him. And he is an absolute psychopath. When they finally have their fight, it's both funny and scary. We never have seen Aykroyd in such a blatantly evil role before. And it's one of my favorite lesser known Cusack films.
It's a good pick right there.
Thank you.
One I've only seen one time, but I enjoyed it thoroughly. My number 5, I'm going to keep brief because I just brought it up about 4 months ago. We were talking about, I think we were talking about gross horror movies, and I brought this up. But believe it or not, the mall cop himself, Kevin James, starred in a movie just last year entitled Becky. And he plays a skinhead who takes a family hostage, and Becky is the teenage daughter who is not with the family when they are taken hostage. She's out in the woods on her own, and it turns in, as I've mentioned, into almost a Home Alone type scenario where the bad guys are after the daughter to get this key to open up this box. but instead of it being sort of, goofy, laughing at Joe Pesci, you have eyeballs removed and all kinds of grotesque things happen to the bad guys. Great movie. I keep recommending it. Becky, do check it out. Have you seen that one, E-Man?
I wanted to. I was a little afraid of it because it did have a little B movie appeal, but the biggest draw was definitely Kevin James for me. I was like, oh, if there was ever a reason to watch it, it'd be to see Kevin James going dark.
Sure. And if you're listening to this, you just pull up the box cover, the art, if you type in Becky movie, just seeing him, Kevin James, with the shaved head, the goatee, he just looks intimidating and scary, and he pulled it off quite effectively.
Yeah.
That was
I still haven't seen that 5.
One. Yeah, you would like it a lot.
I know. I got to check it out.
Into our 4s we go. What do you got sitting there, E-Man?
I'll also go with a recent one. I will go with Adam Sandler in Uncut Gems. You're dealing with a guy who's he's a gambling addict. He's got the mob or the collectors after him, and he's a New York City jeweler. He risks everything to try and basically stay alive and also keep his family together. What little of it is left. But I gotta say, I mean, this was even though Sandler at this point has already done many dark roles and more dramatic roles, I just loved how he captured the darker essence of being an addict, a gambling addict. Like that to me was just something that we don't really see that often. Usually it's like, drug addict or, alcoholic or something, but like gambling is a real addiction. And I just loved how he was able to just portray that in this movie. And he gave an exceptional performance as well. It's
Sandler's best, for sure.
Yeah.
No arguments. It is Sandler's best, for sure.
Love that movie.
I do too. All right, back over to me. Michael Keaton had been off of our radars for a very long time before he put in one of the darkest Marvel villain performances as the Vulture in Spider-Man Homecoming. Arguably brought Keaton back,
Oh, no, you're way off.
Really? I'm way off?
Yeah,
what am I?
He'd already done Birdman, and he was nominated for an Academy Award. Then he was in Spotlight, which won the Best Picture of the year, and then he made Marvel.
I say
you're
it's
in your Marvel
Spider-Man.
closet. We're in your
Spider-Man. I hadn't seen Michael Keaton in years. Suddenly he comes out of the woodwork. Anyway, this was a really great villain. Surprisingly dark, right? For Spidey, even his villains like Doc Ock, and they can be kind of dark, but they're also kind of campy. But his performance as Vulture was harrowing in a way. Like when he goes to pick up his date, and it turns out that spoiler alert, her dad is the Vulture. That car scene was so intense, just great. Elevated the entire picture, and I love that performance.
I was, as you know, I give tough time to the superhero films, Marvel in particular, but I loved that movie because it was back to a smaller story and not the whole universe is going to explode. I love that is Michael Keaton's performance and just close knit like that. I loved it.
I agree. They need to get back to the street level for sure.
My number 4 is a heavy hitter. Sorry if I'm stealing your number 1, E-Man. Sorry if I'm stealing your number 1, Matt K. But this is where I put Steve Martin, great comedian, very funny. I love him in Little Shop of Horrors as the dentist. Matt, did I steal your number 1?
No. It's interesting because as I was doing the research, I saw Martin's name come up in another movie. I didn't think of Little Shop of Horrors. I didn't think of it.
It is a comedy, right? But his character is pretty dark, right? He does beat his girlfriend. He's addicted to nitrous oxide, and he's just a dark, sadistic character. Yes, he's got his singing moments, and I watched it again today in preparation. I laughed with that shot where you actually get the camera inside the person's mouth looking at Steve Martin doing the dental work. So it is still a comedy, but the character itself is quite dark. And Steve Martin played it perfect. Has the funniness, but also brings that darkness to the character, just the right amount.
I begrudgingly give it to you. Okay.
Wow. I thought I was stealing people's number one. I get a begrudgingly.
Well, it's a comedy. Yes, it is a dark comedy. Yes, it is Little Shop of Horrors. So it's in there, but it's not necessarily a dark role. It's a comedic role.
Boy, you're going to hate my next pick.
Yeah. Let me scratch off my other one then.
I know. Matt is just in a pissy mood.
I'm in a pissy mood.
That's okay. Actually, if you don't mind, I will tell you what I was going to pick, but because Matt just eviscerated this entire category now, I'm not going to do it. I was going to do Eddie Murphy and Vampire in Brooklyn, but it's still kind of a comedy horror-ish. So I won't go that route. That's fine. I'll toss that out. I think I'm pretty safe with my next couple picks. So I don't think you guys are taking, but my next one is going to be Monique, Precious. Precious, that was a movie about a teen who, she was pregnant, overweight, illiterate. She was going to like this alternative school, just having a lot of home problems and stuff. But Monique played the role of the abusive mother, I think award-winning, if not, for supporting role.
Was.
But yeah, that made her career take off from an acting perspective and be taken much more seriously compared to her stand-up and her TV sitcoms and stuff. But she crushed that role. It was an amazing performance, especially from someone who prior to that we had only seen in comedic roles for the most part. So for her to go that dark, in such a dramatic role was just really impressive.
Matt, because you're tomfoolery here, you made E-Man switch his pick.
It's a better pick, E-Man. See?
He stole my number one. Monique was my number one pick. So now I'm going to have to sub one in at number one. But I agree with you wholeheartedly, E-Man. Very dark role. I mean, it's a character that you just hate. And she's so abusive to Precious. But actually at the end, she has that big scene with the counselor where she's talking about being jealous of Precious. And you almost, you start to feel for her as well. The whole entire situation, it doesn't start always, abuse doesn't start with one person. It's something happened to this person and so forth. And wow, what a movie and what a dark character and amazing performance by Monique. Loved it. Yeah.
Agree. All right, swinging it back to me at number 3, I have Steve Carell in the movie Foxcatcher as DuPont, who murders Mark Ruffalo's character at the end of the movie. Just the entire psychological manipulation. You could feel DuPont's psychopathy through the entire movie. And again, like what I said at the beginning of the podcast, how a comedian can disarm us and get us to expect one thing and expect, especially like a Steve Carell, who we all know from The Office as being this like bonehead, not a psychopathic manipulator. But yet he pulls off that role so well, perhaps because we were disarmed and a little not expecting it. Man, I've seen it a couple times now, and he disappeared into that role. It's surprising to me that it didn't hit bigger than it did. But that's my number 3.
I knew Foxcatcher would come up. Honorable mention of mine. Good pick, Matt. Mine, number 3, is Sacha Baron Cohen. At the time, and you got to see where I'm going with this one. At the time he popped up in this movie, I thought there was no way this guy was going to be considered a major actor. But then I saw him in Sweeney Todd. And it's the musical about the murdering barber. Johnny Depp plays Sweeney Todd. And Sacha Baron Cohen pops up as the dueling barber that starts out in the beginning. And probably the most violent scene in the film involves Sacha Baron Cohen being bludgeoned to death. It is so gruesome. I watched it again today and I thought, I can't believe this took place in a musical, because it's, singing along. And yes, it's about a murder, barber murdering people, but still for him to like pick up this pitcher and just hit Sacha Baron Cohen over the head until he's just bloody dead. It's stunning. Dark musical, fun, entertaining. And Sacha Baron Cohen, you could tell in that role was like, oh, he can do way more than Ali G and what we've seen. Like this guy's going to make it in the movies as well.
Still haven't seen it, man. I've never seen Sweeney Todd.
It's a good one. Into our twos we go, E-Man.
I'm going to go with Marlon Wayans, Requiem for a Dream.
Great pick.
Yeah,
Great
I
pick.
mean, that it's almost a little disappointing for me because I thought he was so fantastic in the role that I was like, please do more of these. Like, not that role, but just like, take acting more seriously, because I get it. He does more of the slapstick comedy and stuff like that. But I'm like, you really have some talent here. And this, I thought, was like going to be the beginning of just a turn in his career. But, he just, I don't know. Like, I don't know what his agent was telling him or what was going on. But yeah, I mean, the movie is about these 4 drug addicts, what was it, Coney Island, they're just heroin addicts and their life is just miserable. It's bad. It's not a good story whatsoever. It gets really wild and crazy, but it's a fantastic movie with great performances. And yeah, I mean, again, knowing where Marlon Wayans started and what his career was even after this movie, this right here was like that one shiny, bright moment where he was just standing on top of the hill. And I forget if he was nominated or not for this, but
let's throw that in the fish tank.
I feel like he should have been, if not.
See who was nominated for Requiem
this
for a Dream.
This was in 2000, I think. 2000.
Yeah, he was excellent in that. You're totally right. I never really thought about why his career didn't go in that direction more. I mean, and you think casting directors would have been looking at him too that way. Interesting.
Well, and then we just had him again in Sofia Coppola's latest movie. What was that one called with
Love on the Rocks?
Yeah, with Bill Murray. And man, here's the guy from Requiem for a Dream. And yes, he's done a lot of silly movies, but I'm like, okay, here he is again in a serious role. And boy, was that just cut out of cardboard. Yep. I'm sorry. He did not bring it. That movie was disappointing on a lot of levels, but Marlon Wayans was not the least of them.
Yep.
All right. Swings it over to me at number 2. I'm going with somebody who, he'd done some comedic roles. He'd even done a thriller. I'm sorry. He had done some serious roles. He'd even done a thriller, but he had never done straight up psychological horror until he did 1 Hour Photo, talking about like the chain of abuse his character got, Robin Williams in that movie. It's
Matt
just
loves this one.
What's that?
I said you love this one.
You don't?
No, I'm just saying it comes up. You've talked about this one numerous times.
It's a rare horror movie in that we spend the entire time with. He's not necessarily a murderer, but he's the antagonist, and the whole movie is through his point of view. And because of that, you can't leave that movie without feeling affected, without feeling your emotional state is a little off kilter, just from having spent so much time with somebody who's clearly not operating with a full deck of cards. It's harrowing. It's at times very trippy and visually disturbing, and just the subject matter alone, because like who hasn't, I mean, I guess nowadays we don't go to the photomat to develop pictures anymore. Like those little booths at Walgreens are going to be gone soon enough, but that was a thing back then. And who hasn't done that and wondered about the person behind the counter and that little social contract we have with them, and this movie lays that bare, and Williams does not crack a smile, doesn't tell a single joke. It's not Robin Williams up there. It's one of his most different roles.
And like I was saying at the top of the show, we have that familiarity with comedians where we feel like we know them because they're funny, and we're comfortable with that. So seeing him play so off character, startling.
Right.
My number 2 is the smallest role I have in the movie. It's almost a cameo. Matt likes to always say it's a cameo. This really is pretty damn close to a cameo. 2017, this movie made my top 10 list. I loved it. A lot of people were total opposite on it. Darren Aronofsky's Mother was the movie. And the actress is Kristen Wiig.
Oh.
Pops up in a very small role. She actually plays Javier Bardem's publicist in the movie, who brings a bunch of fans. And the whole movie, you got to go out on the internet and read exactly the analogy of Mother for the book of Genesis. It really plays out beautifully in this sense and what he's trying to say. But she brings a bunch of people, Kristen Wiig's character, to the house. And at this point, this is when the movie goes off the rails. And these people are packing the house. And at one point, she starts organizing people's executions. And this is Kristen Wiig. And she's walking around the kitchen shooting people in the head. And it happened so fast. I remember, I'm just so appalled and shocked by the scene that I was like, wait a minute, was that Kristen Wiig? It was one of those kind of moments. And it wasn't until like the credits rolled that I had to see, oh my God, it was Kristen Wiig. God, that was dark. Crazy movie, dark character, Kristen Wiig. And from there, now I wouldn't be stunned to see her in anything because I think she's, mega talented. But at that time, seeing her pull this off was shocking.
That's the second Aronofsky film on the list.
It's funny because I had Kristen Wiig on my list, but, but for Wonder Woman, and I was like, yeah, I actually liked her in that role, but the movie, so that was the only differential.
I think it's worse than,
yeah, you're being generous.
It had some redeeming qualities for me, but I'm not going to go back and rewatch it. So take that out. All right. Okay.
This is Cinemajaw, and this is our number ones. What do you got sitting there?
You know what? My number one, I'm going to take it back, and I'm going to give this, my wife would kill me if I did not mention this, because this is also her favorite movie. We're going all the way back to 1985. The Color Purple and Whoopi Goldberg. That movie right there by Steven Spielberg, no less. You're talking about a woman who's she's looking for her identity the entire time, but she's going through so many stages of abuse throughout her whole life: mental abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse. And it's just, it's a movie I could watch like forever. Every time it comes on, I'm immediately glued. Me and my wife, we sit down and watch it. Plenty of references to go to and all. But yeah, for Whoopi Goldberg, someone, again, straight up comedian. And luckily, she's kind of like had a very good variety of roles in her career, whether they be serious or dramas. But this role, I think she just blew it out the park. And this was a very, very early sign that, she's got the right stuff.
Yeah. This is completely off topic, but talking about Whoopi Goldberg's movie career. Do you remember Jumpin' Jack Flash?
Oh my gosh, I haven't seen that in so long.
She teams up with Sam Elliott in a buddy cop comedy.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Dude, it's worth revisiting. Definitely.
Wow.
Not as dark. Not as dark.
Oh my God, I haven't seen that. I'm just now looking this up. I have not seen that in years. Years.
All right, that swings it back over to me. For my number one, I'm going with the voice of Marlin the fish, Albert Brooks from Finding Nemo, in my favorite movie from 2011, Drive, where he plays Bernie, the crime boss. Albert Brooks, I think this is the prime example, because I can't imagine Albert Brooks being anything less than kind and gentle, and I think even in this movie, they sort of portray Bernie as somewhat reasonable, a psychopathic murdering crime boss. He at least talks to the characters in a calm tone, and he lets them know where they stand. He's not like one of these crime bosses who just rules with fear and intimidation. Totally opposite. His threat is implicit, it's just beneath the surface. And boy, when push comes to shove toward the end of this movie, the brutality that this character is capable of is on the screen. And they didn't pull out the punches, man. They didn't pull the stops. So they sort of let it all fly. Great movie, great performance from Albert Brooks. That's my number one.
Nice. In the notes, Phil, I do wanted to say my number one is Monique. Spoiled because Matt put pressure on E-Man. E-Man pulls a switch, puts Monique instead of Eddie Murphy, and then I'm flattened my number one. Then my number one sub was Steve Carell and Foxcatcher. So that was taken. I will sub one in. It's another Adam Sandler performance, and the first one that was a darker in tone, which was Punch Drunk Love. He has mental issues. He has social issues. And at some point, he finally gets pushed to the edge by the great Philip Seymour Hoffman, and he just screams in the phone. And it's the first time we see this anger in not a comedic way, because Adam Sandler was great at yelling and it being funny, but all of a sudden he was yelling and it wasn't funny. It was actually scary in a way, like knowing that this character could go off the hinges. Punch Drunk Love. I'll sub that one in, but I do want it to note Monique was my number one.
Nice.
Any other honorables, Matt?
I got some honorables for you guys. I'll go rapid fire. I also had a nod to Sandler. Danny DeVito from Batman Returns, biting people's noses off. Marlon from Requiem. Billy Connolly in a twofer. You can find dark role from Billy Connolly in Boondock Saints and Fido, the underappreciated zombie movie. Jason Segel as John Foster Wallace in End of Tour. John Leguizamo, Summer of Sam. Roberto Benigni in Life is Beautiful. Monique, we mentioned, and rounded out with John Lithgow in Pet Sematary. There you go.
E-Man, any other honorables?
The Eddie Murphy one. I had 1 hour photo with Robin Williams. I think there was a Sarah Silverman one.
Oh yeah,
I saw that pop up a lot.
What was that? That was a Smile something.
Yes, I smile
back. Yeah, like that was.
I saw that movie. That was really good performance.
Good performance. I don't know if I care for the movie as much, but yeah, and that was kind of like where I was. I was like, okay, comedian, yes. Dark role, yes. Did I like the movie? So that's what made my list a little bit more refined here and there.
Sure.
But that's the only ones that kind of come to mind right now.
All right, Jawheads, if we missed your favorite comedian in a dark role and you have Twitter pulled up, shoot us a tweet at Cinemajaw, or you can email us feedback@cinemajaw.com. We are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we have a condensed summer movie preview. We'll all be naming our number one movie we're looking forward to seeing, and Matt is taking E-Man on in rock movie trivia. Stick with us.
When Matt and Ryan told me this month was Angelina Jolie month, I gotta be honest, guys, started to sweat a little bit. Since I'm not very familiar with her work, I have been looking her up, and I gotta say, it is a little weird to me how a lot of the online conversation around Angelina Jolie movies are more about her looks than her abilities. And while it goes without saying that Matt, Ryan, and I are all against any and all objectification Angelina's faced in her career, I do have to admit that I'm frustrated with the Hollywood machine on this one, as much as I'm frustrated with myself for not being more familiar with some of Angelina's great roles that represent her as an actress over an object. All that being said, after scouring the web for clips that I could speak with authority and knowledge on, and that I found familiarity with, the only one I could find was this performance of the vapid, controlling, walking stereotype, the far too sexualized Lola in DreamWorks' Shark Tale, a role that, despite being a children's film, an animated representation of Jolie, and, oh yeah, a fish, they still found a way to make about the way she looks.
Angie was right. I am a joke.
Hey, Shark Slayer. Why are you out here? All your friends are inside.
Not all my friends.
You mean that little bottom feeder from the whale wash? Forget about her. She's a nobody.
No, I'm the nobody.
Oh, let me guess. She told you that she loves you. Is that it? I mean, it's not like you feel the same way about her.
You know what? I don't think this is going to work out.
Wait, are you dumping me? Let me explain something to you.
We're gonna party like it's your birthday. Ha! Young love.
Jawheads, I want you to do me a favor. Pull your phone out of your pocket and go to your YouTube app. Search for the Cinemajaw channel and hit subscribe. Really, please do it right now. This will do two things. One, it helps us reach more people. We want to spread the good word about film, and you clicking subscribe really helps us do that. And two, it costs you nothing. That's right. Subscribing to Cinemajaw on YouTube is fun and it's free. Think of it as a donation that doesn't even cost you anything. Even if you just listen to the podcast and never really watch the videos, you subscribing on YouTube helps us make the podcast better too. But please check out a few videos while you're there. We think they're pretty good. So right now, while you're listening, before you forget, take your phone out. It shouldn't even interrupt the show. And go to YouTube, search Cinemajaw, and hit subscribe. And thank you so much.
And we are back on Cinemajaw, hanging out with Emmanuel Noisette, better known to the YouTube universe as E-Man from E-Man's Movie Reviews.
We were talking a little bit about how you were the last guest before the pandemic shut everything down. And I'll never forget it. It's kind of like one of those moments in history where you're like, where were you? That was the night we learned.
Do you remember the movie we reviewed, E-Man?
I don't either, dude, by the way.
Oh, I do. Are you guys ready for it?
I think I just remember losing to Matt at the Cinemajaw War. I think I lost that because I won the first one.
Yeah.
But I think I lost the second one. So I think
this is the tiebreaker.
I think this is the tiebreaker.
The movie we reviewed was Bloodshot.
Oh,
that's right.
God. Oh.
Because I remember thinking, boy, did we go out on a bad note. We reviewed Bloodshot, and the world was ending. Like, what? It can't end on Bloodshot. It's not supposed to end on Vin Diesel.
Because it was like the last movie in theaters. I remember them talking about like, well, Bloodshot broke the record. I'm like, there's nothing else. Of course it breaks records.
What's very interesting is the last time we had you on was the day we learned about the NFL, the NBA, and everything shutting down. Mm-hmm. And now here you are back again. When it's like when Gandalf comes back, like, I return to you now, and everything's looking up. I just read that the very reputable sources are reporting Lollapalooza will happen this summer in Chicago. In its normal time slot. Yes. In Variety reported it. So,
wow.
How about that?
Okay.
Right?
This on the same day, the CDC now is saying fully vaccinated people don't need to wear masks indoors, outdoors, or in groups. Woo. So, all good news.
I love
right?
It's come full circle with E-Man.
E-Man, you've been our pandemic bookend.
I mean, I didn't want to brag. I wanted to kind of let things just happen, but you're welcome.
Good stuff. Again, for the jawheads that want to check out your reviews, see your videos, all that good stuff, where should we send them?
E-Man's Movie Reviews. You don't want to miss it. Go ahead and Google it. You'll find me everywhere from Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And each one will have a certain little appeal that I think you will absolutely enjoy.
Nice.
What about the hoodie that you wear that I was talking about? Are you giving those out to lucky fans?
You know what? I am giving the links away for them to buy them if they want. It is available on Teespring, I believe. If you go to any one of my YouTube videos, scroll down, you'll see a row full of my merchandise and stuff. You can buy it there. If you go to my Facebook fan page, you can also find it under the shop button, and you can get a t-shirt, you can get a mug. It's a whole bunch of different things. If you want my face on something, I'll find a way to put it on there for you, and you can get it.
Well, I loved it. I loved when I saw you walk in with that hoodie. I thought, this is fantastic. Look at this. He's got that big smile on his face. It's just great. Good stuff. All right, Matt, before we get to trivia and our summer movie preview, we did throw a couple items into the fish tank, and I know Phil wants to swim up to the top, so let's open up that fish tank.
Wait a moment. glass bowl. Hey, there's some fish folk.
Who's coming with me besides Flipper? Here.
That's a Sicilian message. It means Luca Brasi sleeps with the fishes.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Thank you. I do want to clarify one thing because I do not want to be responsible for spreading false information. The CDC approved fully vaccinated people to not wear a mask inside for small groups, but still recommend you wear one if the setting has more than 10 people.
Yes.
Just everyone use your jurisdiction and be safe. I don't want anyone being like, Cinemajaw said it was fine. And
right. Yes.
My family's so ill.
Yeah.
I agree. Don't listen to me. Go to reputable sources. I agree.
That out of the way, we had two questions in here. Both of these are kind of bummers. I'm going to be point blank. Not a whole lot of satisfying answers here. The number 23 is not streaming anywhere conveniently or enjoyably. Oh, no. You can watch it on Tubi, but there's going to be ads. Other than that, I mean, you can rent it. You absolutely can rent it. But in terms of just like easy access, you're already paying for it with your monthly subscription. We're out of luck. And then was Marlon Wayans nominated for Requiem for a Dream? This one is so surprising to me. Not only was Marlon Wayans not nominated, Requiem didn't win any Oscars and there was only one. It was only for leading actress Ellen Burstyn, which absolutely is good. I'm glad that was there. I'm not trying to say that that's the bad part, but that was the only one is so shocking to me.
It is a shame. For as much as we talk about that movie on Cinemajaw and people still reference Requiem for a Dream, they just missed the boat on it, you know?
On all like soundtrack, on the other performances, it's very shocking. It's bonkers.
What won Best Picture that year?
I think that was the year Traffic won.
That was 2000.
Yeah.
That wasn't Crash. When was Crash? Was that 90s?
No, Crash.
No, that was like 2004, somewhere around there.
Okay.
But yeah, I think Traffic won. Was that everything, Phil?
That's all we got in here.
All right, jump back in that fish tank.
You betcha.
Matt, we normally dedicate an entire podcast to summer movie preview. We always joke that it's your season of movies, the big blockbusters. Usually they're chock full of superhero films. Matt's all excited about 15 of the Marvel films coming out, and we just have a blast talking about summer movie preview. This year, I'm excited to say we're going to have a summer movie season after last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's already starting, right? I mean, we're starting to see it. I mean, some are already saying that, Spiral is part of it, if you look online, and definitely coming up here for Memorial Day weekend. Two big movies coming out. I don't know if these are any on your list, but you have Cruella and you have Quiet Place 2. So big movies are popping up here. It's a go. But we thought what we would do is go round robin, each select our movie we're looking most forward to. Matt, since you usually have the most pedestrian pick, we'll let you start.
I don't know how I feel about that introduction.
You extended this offer to me, which is even more surprising because my taste as well.
Can I just point out the amazing artwork for the Cruella poster from Disney that I believe may be the first Disney poster to feature the anarchy symbol in an A. Did you guys pick up on that?
I haven't. I don't know if I've seen the poster. I'll have to look it up.
She is a villain, but the A in Emma Stone, as she's playing a villain, is circled in the anarchy symbol. And I thought it was kind of cool. Very punk rock. My movie that I'm most excited for this summer, of course, is Black Widow. For a lot of reasons, you guys. It's not just because I'm excited for a Marvel movie, even though, yes, I am. It also is a marker, right? Because one of the casualties of losing our summer movie season was we lost that bombast and popcorn that I do love so much. And having a Marvel movie back kind of sets the future in motion again. We're no longer stuck. We're out. It's back. That's how I'm going to feel when I watch that movie. And God, I hope it's good. I really do.
Well, I had said, E-Man, this was on text with Matt. I had said that Marvel, to people like me who aren't, go get them Marvel fans, I said they had actually lost a lot of momentum during the pandemic. I thought more so than, other franchises, because two things had happened. They had already just peaked with the Avengers movie, with the big one that had just happened. They just came off that. And then there's this long lull. I was already sort of fatigued by it, being completely honest. And now it's been a year and something since I've seen a Marvel movie, and I've just could care less and less. Am I going to see Black Widow? Yes. Florence Pugh's in it. Scarlett Johansson's in it. They're great at casting. I'll see it. But I feel they've lost momentum. Do you feel that at all? See where at least I'm coming from?
Yeah, I mean, I totally get it. If Disney Plus and the streaming stuff wasn't there, I would totally agree. Because if you were to just tell me like a year, first of all, I was mildly excited for Black Widow. Obviously, because I don't know, it's been 10 years and 23 plus movies deep. I'm pretty invested into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So anything they check out, I'm going to go watch, period. But I couldn't sit here and say that Black Widow is going to be like, oh my gosh, can't wait. It just wasn't that high for me. But given what the Disney Plus shows are doing, they're creating yet another avenue for excitement, because Black Widow is supposed, because the movies, I mean, they're doing something new here. They're doing something where like the streaming shows tie in and supplement the movies and vice versa, right? Like the movies will affect the streaming shows as well. And I mean, this is a brand new way. I don't think we've ever had anything to this magnitude when it comes to entertainment, to have it blend that deep. I mean, you'd be lucky if a TV show had a big cinematic, finale or something, but now with everything, I mean, they're just digging the hooks into people and being like, look, if you watch this, you better watch that. And you are in this long haul of a ride. So I do think that they're doing enough to reclaim their seat. Because if you notice also, every Friday or the end of the week, they dominate the news with whatever TV show that they put out there, whether it's Falcon and Winter Soldier or WandaVision. They're always the top news for that. And that's all you need to stay relevant. So
did Loki start yet?
Not yet. You got June 9th, I believe, on Wednesday.
I'm stoked.
Yeah, that's going to be revolutionary, I think.
We'll go to Phil next. Phil, we're including you here. What's your?
Did you see Ryan's dumbfounded face when you? Thank you, E-Man, for being on the show. It's so nice to have somebody.
Honestly, I think even Ryan would like Loki.
He's not going to watch it.
I think he would like it if he watches it.
I've drawn the line. I'm not going to watch any Marvel television show.
Dude,
so
WandaVision was amazing.
I hope they don't ruin the movies.
I'm shocked that you didn't like WandaVision. I thought, or not watching it. I'm sorry, not watching it.
I haven't watched it yet.
I think it's specifically designed for people that don't care for Marvel stuff. Like every person I know that is like, I'm not really a Marvel person. They love at least the first half of WandaVision.
Where were you 3 weeks ago?
I know, when I was losing Cinema Wars about this.
I don't know.
Hey, I won the Cinema War, and that's all that matters, Matt. That's all that matters.
Doesn't make you right, Ryan.
Phil, your most anticipated film this summer.
I will preface this by saying I don't think it's going to be good, but I think that's part of the appeal for me. Mother frickin' Space Jam.
I have
legacy.
Who isn't excited for that?
Mention. This I think looks pretty good.
I think I here's my issue. I think that anything that is like in production and being talked about for this long, there is no possible way that it can live up to the hype. I mean, how long have we been talking about Space Jam 2? For it feels like 20 years. Obviously that's hyperbole, but I don't, it's already had controversy, which I think is kind of silly. They can update designs and that's fine, everyone. That's literally fine. It doesn't have to look the exact same. But yeah, I don't think it's going to, when they first announced that they were making a Space Jam 2, I think that would have been like that would have been the iron at its hottest. Now it's lost a lot of steam and it's not as timely. It's not going to be good, I don't think.
Dude, it wasn't timely when they first announced it either.
Well, I will say I wasn't that excited until I saw the trailer for it. And after I watched the trailer, I thought, damn, that looks like it's going to be fun when that comes out. I'm actually excited for it. July 16th for Space Jam, HBO and in theaters. I'm excited.
I'll be on it. Totally.
I'll bring my kids.
E-Man, what movie you got sitting at the top spot that you're most excited for?
Well, Matt already stole one of them, so that's fine. No, I mean, if I had to, I've got, I kind of have two, but
give them to us both.
All right. Well, I'll give you the worst one. I think The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. I'm excited for that, even though I also, just like Phil, I think it's not going to be that good because my favorite horror director at this point, James Wan, is not directing it, and that bothers the core of my being that he is not directing things, especially horror. I've said it so many times. He is the Wes Craven of our generation. If you are even remotely interested in horror, this guy knows how to be so innovative with his horror. And I love the fact that he doesn't rely on jump scares. He just makes your own imagination scare the mess out of you. And the way he uses cinematography is just masterful. So I'm a little disappointed that, out of the series, he's producing, because this is like his whole baby with WB. I'm a little disappointed, but, we'll see. Hopefully, it does something. But what I am more excited for is A Quiet Place 2. Absolutely loved the first Quiet Place movie. For the directorial debut for John Krasinski. I absolutely love the way he directed that first film. My only concern is that there was no plan to do a part 2 for A Quiet Place. So now I'm like, are you just doing this because you felt pressured by the studio and the fans? Because, if it's not like organically planned out, like if you didn't go into it thinking that, I'm like, are you just going to stretch this and just make it feel like a cash grab? I don't know. But again, he's so green as a director that I'm more excited to see, what do you do now? How do you step up to this? Do you just go formulaic and be like, okay, well, here's another Quiet Place 2. There you go. Or are you going to find a way to take it up a notch, which I think is another challenge that a lot of people don't realize. Like, making a sequel to a hit is hard. Especially the pressure. Yeah, I mean, not just to be creative, but to match expectations, if not exceed it. Oh my gosh!
Sure. So just ask Ghostbusters 2.
There you go. There you go. I mean, you could do a whole show on like sequels that don't live up and or do exceed. But yeah,
I did want to say, I think it's coming in at the right time. People are coming back to the movie theaters, and what a great way to come back to a movie theater than a movie that's made for the theaters. Yeah. If you saw Quiet Place in the theater, you know what I'm talking about. It was something that we hadn't seen in a long time. He was really focusing on that quietness, that stillness in the movie theater, and that collective quiet of a crowd adds to the scare a million times. Then I've rewatched it at home, and it's just not the same.
No,
I remember seeing it in the theater. I mean, night and day.
Dude, that experience to me is one of the key reasons that I was like, you've done something. Because if movies can make audiences do things, including being quiet, you've done something. You won some award. You've achieved something there. And that movie, I mean, I remember being in the theater. People were afraid to cough. Like no one wanted to make a peep. And it enhanced the movie going experience. It was a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Looking forward to that one. Like I said, comes out Memorial Day. So that's a big one. My top pick comes from A24, the studio. I saw the trailer just recently, and I'm so stoked to see this movie. It is entitled The Green Knight, and it's a fantasy film written and directed by David Lowry, who did A Ghost Story, Pete's Dragon, and Old Man and the Gun. And it stars Dev Patel, Alicia Vikander, and Joel Edgerton. And it's actually based on a poem. And The Green Knight has something to do with King Arthur, but I don't want to spoil it myself, so I haven't dug too deep into it. But if you watch the trailer, the cinematography in this movie is off the hook. It just looks phenomenal. And I love the idea that, yes, it's based on a poem, but in a nutshell, it's more fresh material. It's not based on like a comic or a sequel. It really has something where it's like, oh, we haven't seen anything quite like this.
Is it like really a high fantasy, like sword and sorcery kind of thing?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm in. It's been a long time since we've had a quality fantasy movie.
The Green Knight comes out on July 30th. Do watch the trailer. It'll get you excited for sure. Other notables that we didn't mention: Free Guy, Ryan Reynolds, May 21st. Excitement level? Yeah. Cruella, you mentioned, Matt. How about Old by M. Night Shyamalan?
I don't know how to feel about that.
I don't know
July
anything about
23rd.
it. All right.
And the last one I wanted to mention was Jungle Cruise. This is Rock's new one with Emily Blunt. I was actually excited for this. I think it looks like a good family adventure film.
It probably will be, and Disney will sell 10 times as many tickets to the ride.
Yes.
That's, fine.
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't like a good rock family movie?
Sure.
There you go. All right. Summer movie season is upon us. Let's get excited here, Jawheads. Speaking of excitement, we always end the podcast with trivia, and in honor of Chris Rock starring in Spiral, we're playing Rock movie trivia. E-Man, you're our guest. You get to choose if you want to go first. Let Matt go first. There's steals if person doesn't know the question, and if you get hung up on any question, you got one rescue me, Ryan.
I'll go first because last time I let Matt go first and he whooped me, so I want to go first this time.
Question 1 in Rock movie trivia. E-Man, Chris Rock, Adam Sandler, Kevin James, and David Spade starred in this 2010 movie about 5 friends getting back together.
Was that Grown Ups?
I thought, man, we're in trouble if he misses this one.
Because I got that. I used to get that movie mixed up with something else because they did another big pair up or whatever. And I okay, but now we're good.
1-0 E-Man. Question 2 over to Matt K. Matt, Nick Cage made one movie with Sean Connery. Name it.
The Rock.
Correct. 1-1. Question 3 back over to E-Man. Before they made Jumanji together, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson worked with Kevin Hart on this 2016 comedy in which Johnson plays a CIA agent and Hart plays an accountant.
Central Intelligence.
2-1. Everybody perfect so far. Matt, who played Dwayne Johnson's partner in the film Pain and Gain? Who co-starred with Dwayne Johnson in Pain and Gain?
Is this all going to be about The Rock? I mean, there's so many ways you could have.
It's rocks.
It's only 2 questions, so this is another Dwayne Rock.
Okay.
For Pete's sake, I write these trivia questions every week, and he's going to complain? Jesus.
Yeah, of course. I'm the victim. I will say I have no idea. So Mark Wahlberg.
That is correct.
Wow. I never saw it. So just a guess.
2-2. Okay. Back over to E-Man. Name the 2001 Chris Rock film that sees him go to heaven only to come back to life in another body.
Oh. Can you repeat it?
Name the 2001 Chris Rock film that sees him go to heaven only to come back to life. I believe in another body. Or the other body might be Chris Rock.
Was it Down to Earth?
Unbelievable.
Yes.
These guys are on a roll.
I would not have gotten that.
That was a deep cut right there.
No,
deep cut.
okay.
It is 3-2 E-Man. Question 6 over to Matt K. Matt, name the actor who starred in Pillow Talk, Giant, and Lovers Come Back opposite Doris Day.
Rock Hudson.
That is correct.
I mean, wow.
I totally wouldn't have gotten that.
Wow.
Doris Day was the key to that question. I mean, like,
yeah. Oh,
I
man.
wouldn't have gotten any inch
first
of
time
that.
first time I ever threw a Rock Hudson question in the Cinemajaw trivia ever. It fit on this one. It is 3-3. Question 7 over to E-Man. In 2012, Tom Cruise starred in a musical. Name it. You do have a rescue if you need it.
I do need a rescue.
Wow. Rescue me, Ryan, on question 7. This clue is for the ages. This clue is for the ages.
That's the clue?
That's the clue.
Oh, yes.
This clue is for the ages. Tom Cruise starred in a musical.
A musical? Oh. Oh, God.
This clue is for the ages.
Dude.
Anything.
Rock. School of Rock.
He's really gonna kick himself when he hears the answer.
I'm sure it is.
man, I'm sorry. I know this one.
All right, go for it.
Rock of Ages.
I never saw it.
Oh man, what a swing we have here.
Hey.
Matt K takes the lead 4-3. Last question of the game. He can win it on a walk-off. Matt, Mark Wahlberg and Jennifer Aniston have made one movie together. Name it.
Well, it's got to have rock in it somehow. All right. Rescue me, Ryan.
Wow.
Well.
Rescue me, Ryan, on question 8. Your clue is a star.
Oh, Rockstar.
There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Where he was replacement for Rob Halford, Judas Priest. Yep.
Matt wins this one. E-Man, I hate to see it happen. A virtual handshake.
He had
here.
home court advantage.
Virtual fist bump. There you go.
Son of a gun. If it came down to a tie, we call it a jawbreaker. This question would have been over to E-Man. Chris Rock, top 3 greatest stand-ups of all time or no?
Oh. Of all time? I can't. No. I can't.
You're wrong. He is.
No,
he is.
I can't. I can't give him that. I mean, Pryor, Eddie Murphy, Carlin. I mean, I couldn't.
He's in the top 10.
I think he
but not
could
top 3.
Squeeze into the top 10, but I'd have to really, really look at it. I mean, Carlin's got to be up there. Pryor's got to be up there. If there were no Eddie Murphy, we wouldn't have a lot of other comics today.
Right.
You know, if there were no Carlin, we wouldn't have a lot of comics today. You know, so that I don't know if I can give. Matter of fact, I'd put Dave Chappelle over Chris Rock.
Chappelle for sure.
You know, so I can't give him top 3.
Real jawbreaker was this. Age of Kevin Hart closest to. Matt, you got a guess?
Kevin Hart. Yeah. Okay. I don't think he's 50. I think he's under 50, but getting close. I'll say he's like 48.
Lock him in at 48. E-Man, you got a guess?
I was going to go 47.
Give that to E-Man. 41 for Kevin Hart.
Wow.
41.
Holy crap. He's younger than me.
Okay.
Good
That's
for
crazy.
him. He's huge.
Good. Cool.
Achieved quite a lot.
Brings us to the end of a very fun and entertaining Cinemajaw. E-Man, we got to thank you first. Thanks for coming on Cinemajaw.
Hey, I appreciate it every single time. You guys are a blast.
I'm just excited we get to see E-Man in screenings again. This is exciting.
I know. You guys saw each other just like, what was it, yesterday?
Yeah. Or the other day. Yeah.
Yep. We also got to thank our producer, our editor, Fill Me In Phil.
Wouldn't be anywhere else, guys.
Matt, we also got to thank the sponsors.
Thanks to Overcast and the Chicago Podcast Co-op who help us get great sponsors like them.
If you would like to support Cinemajaw, the easiest way to do so is by leaving us a review wherever you're listening to this podcast.
And click subscribe while you're at it. It helps us out a lot.
Until next week, I'm Ryan the Movie Guy.
I'm Matt Kay.
And keep on jawing about the movies.